Every year on August 8th, I celebrate the anniversary of when the Kite String Pops by listening to the album from start to finish, a tradition I've kept alive since discovering the band. But this year I wanted to do something different. Not only am I seeing Eyehategod and Crowbar tonight, but I also wanted to make this video to talk about how I discovered the band, how they changed the way I hear music, and ultimately how I got them booked at my favorite venue. This is my acid bath story. I started playing guitar when I was around 9 or 10 years old, and I've always been better at single note fretting than chords. So when I was 18, my cousin suggested I try out bass. To be honest, I hadn't paid much attention to bass up to that point. It's just not something I'd ever tried to focus on. Even though Electric Wizard Dope Throne was my favorite album at the time, I really wasn't listening to much other doom metal besides them and Sabbath. I was mostly listening to industrial, black metal, and brutal death metal. That same day he brought up this band he'd heard about, Acid Bath. He told me about the infamous serial killer artwork and how their music kept getting removed off YouTube. He showed me a picture of the album cover, but I didn't even know where to find obscure music like I do now, so we didn't bother looking. All I knew about the band in that moment was the artwork and that they couldn't be found on YouTube. No joke, just a week later it's my cousin's birthday, and I planned on getting him something at a record store before we hung out. Within just a few minutes, I spotted it, when the Kite String Pops on CD for $30. I instantly remembered our conversation and bought it for him without hesitation. My cousin lives quite a drive away, and thinking it couldn't be found online, I figured why not throw it in the CD player and listen to the whole album. That's when everything changed. I popped the CD in and was met with the unsettling noise at the beginning of the blue. Then the bass hit, and I thought, this is what bass sounds like. This is what I've been searching for. The way the bass and those eerie guitar swells crept in, it sent chills throughout my entire body. Suddenly with Dax's vocals, things got really heavy. I was entranced, locked into every note, every second as the song kept shifting. By the time the blue was over, I was blown away. Then Tranquilize kicked in and the whole process started over. I didn't know what any of the band members looked like or even what their names were. I knew nothing about them. All I knew was that I had to know everything. That first listen was a total life changer. Not only was I instantly obsessed with the band, but it redefined what I thought about bass. I realized right then I need to buy a bass. When it was over, not only was it my new favorite album, but I knew then and there that would be my favorite bassist. Those tones, so many memorable moments and riffs, it changed everything for me. I was filled with this excitement to get home and look him up, see what band he's currently in, listen to all the amazing projects he must have been a part of after all this time. So you can only imagine how devastated I was when I found out the news about his tragic young passing. I didn't know anything about him as a person yet, but still I was crushed. His playing connected with me deeply. Listening to Shroom made it hit even harder. I had just gotten into bass and I hear a dual-bassed band, one of the coolest sounds I've ever heard. Audie would have made it big, there's no doubt in my mind. It wasn't long after this I bought a bass of my own. Last year, after searching for quite some time, I finally found an Ibanez RD707 at a pawn shop. The same model Audie used during his time in Acid Bath. They're incredibly rare to find for sale. With a newfound passion, I practiced bass for that whole year, while diving deep on the internet to find everything Acid Bath related I could. Demos, live performances, anything I could get my hands on. I told all my friends about Acid Bath and shared their music with anyone who'd listen. I knew someone who was into video editing at the time, and they sent me a 1-minute edit using the demo version of The Blue. At the time, I had been making some music videos for fun, nothing serious, but that edit lit a spark in me, and I knew I had to make a full video. I finished it and uploaded it to my YouTube channel, and it got a huge response. The views, the comments, people asking if it was an official video, it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. It was the first time a lot of people were watching something I made and really enjoying it. The moment instilled yet another newfound passion in me, making music videos. I started making even more Acid Bath videos, thrilled by the response. That was before I had my first run-in with the Grinch of the Acid Bath community, Rotten Ronald. And that's when I learned why Acid Bath's music isn't on YouTube. So I created a Culture of Defiance, as well as another channel called Psychedelic Abomination, dedicated to honoring the legacy of Audie Pitre with music videos and maybe some bass covers in the future. Check out the Shroom music videos I have on there, as well as the 2 Acid Bath ones that managed to stay up after all this time. The Blue and Bones of Baby Dolls, which is my most viewed video ever. I'm incredibly thankful that Acid Bath seems to have escaped the grasp of such an awful record label. It really is the end of an era, as finally new Acid Bath music videos are safe to be posted on YouTube. Sadly, the visuals from my other Acid Bath videos are still permanently blocked due to YouTube's AI tied to Rotten. I emailed Rotten Records, but I'm not getting my hopes up. Obligatory to Rotten Records. If you go on Psychedelic Abomination, you'll find a link to all my Acid Bath videos on archive.org, as well as in the description below. Searching for Acid Bath's music opened up an entirely new world for me. Sludge metal, to this day still my favorite genre. Acid Bath taught me how to find obscure music. I would go on to discover some of the best bands and albums I've ever heard, like Abuse, Stress Ball, Graveyard Rodeo, and many more. This is the third passion they led me to, unearthing albums that are some of the best I've ever heard. This is the reason why I created an underground sludge comp on my channel. 3 passions, all sparked by a single band. Acid Bath has stayed my favorite band longer than any other, but when you've listened to every song there is for months on end as much as I have, eventually you start to save them for special occasions. And that's what happened over the next few years, as my hunger shifted towards finding all the sludge metal I could from the 90s and 2000s. So while Acid Bath remained incredibly important to me, I never even conceived the possibility of new music or even getting to see them live. They've always been massively influential in the underground, but since I discovered them, I've witnessed firsthand their online presence grow steadily, with more and more people talking about them. Shout out to Josh, the Acid Bath fan, for being a big part in that. I'm just beyond happy for the band finally getting the recognition they deserve. It shouldn't have been a surprise considering all the attention, but still I was shocked like everyone else to see Acid Bath reuniting. The reunion completely reignited my original passion for Acid Bath. I was obsessed all over again, diving back into everything related to the band. Uncovering things I had never known before, I discovered how the Clearwater, Florida comic Boiled Angels by Mike Diana had been an influence on Dax's lyrics. I even picked up a copy of Swamp Thing after discovering it too had been an influence. With more and more non-festival shows being announced, one thing became absolutely clear. I had to see my favorite band, no matter what. Rather than go to the Daytona Festival, I was more than willing to head out to New Orleans if that's what it took. But something Nardwuar said in his Do-It-Yourself TED Talk has always stuck with me. Don't wait, reach out. Over the years, more bands I've contacted have actually responded than not. So back in February, without really expecting much, I decided to give it a shot. I emailed both Acid Bath and my favorite venue, Jannus Live, where I've seen Electric Wizard, The Black Dahlia Murder, and so many others. Just 2 days later, I got a response. It's happening, Acid Bath at Jannus Live. I told everyone I knew. I didn't know the date yet, but I knew it was real. I wanted to scream it to the internet, but I had to wait for it to be officially announced. Sure enough, just a month later, I wake up and everyone is talking about it online. I check my email, and it's just 2 days after my birthday, and I'm on the guest list. +1. Best birthday gift ever. Thank you, Jannus Live, seriously. Finally, the day of the show. I got there just before the gates opened and got in early thanks to the guest list. I was beyond psyched to see what the unique poster would look like and knew no matter what, I'd have to grab a signed one. The artwork ended up being easily one of the sickest I've seen. I got number 38. If you picked up one too, drop your number in the comments. Before the show, I made a handful of Audie Pitry buttons to pass out in his memory. It's the least I could do for someone who's had such a huge impact on my life. It was sick getting to talk to other Acid Bath fans in person. Everyone joking about how you know things will get serious once Dax's hand goes in his pocket. There's nothing like being surrounded by people who love the same music as you. I then headed up to the VIP section for Wake. I've always been a huge fan of the Arkansas sludge scene. Wake's first album, Absence Due to Projection, has always been my favorite. Seeing them live, the massive atmosphere of their sound, combined with the dual male-female vocals, really gave me chills. From up on the balcony, I saw what had to be Wake's biggest fan in the crowd, screaming every word the entire set. While they are playing, Sammy Dewey walked right past me and a group of people. Wake was super loud, and he definitely seemed to be in a rush, so there was no getting his attention. I really wanted to thank him in person for contributing a song to my community sludge compilation, but still was so psyched to have gotten that close. Once Wake's set was over, I saw an opening and made my way straight to the front row for Weed Eater, as I wanted to be as close as possible for Acid Bath. This was my second time seeing Weed Eater. The first time was in a tiny venue with a small crowd, so it felt much more personal. I'm planning on talking about that show and meeting Dixie Dave in a separate video. Weed Eater absolutely killed it as always with bringing the crowd to life. The whole set was full of energy. Unsurprisingly, Dixie looked wasted, but as always crushes it on bass and vocals. He really sets his presence with his unhinged stage antics. I'm sure that'll be far from the last time I see Weed Eater, and with hope, maybe I'll meet the whole band someday. Anticipation for Acid Bath between sets was electric. You could feel it in the crowd, reaching a peak when the song Black Sabbath by the band Black Sabbath started playing over the speakers. The entire song was played in full. Hearing it that loud and with everyone singing along, it was the closest I'll ever get to hearing Sabbath live. The perfect track to build up the hype. Rest in peace, Ozzy. And then, the moment everyone had been waiting for. The crowd erupted as Dax's poem, The Beautiful Downgrade, echoed through the venue, and the band took the stage. As expected, they opened with Tranquilized, and the moment Dax started singing, I was immediately hit with just how powerful his vocals are live. Mike Sanchez was still doing all of his legendary perfectly timed jumps, just like in the footage of the old days. And when that slow bluesy bass solo hit, the part I'd been waiting for, Shane Wesley absolutely nailed it. I didn't want to make the same mistake I did with Electric Wizard. I was completely in a trance that show and assumed plenty of other people would record and post it, but only 2 videos ever surfaced. This time I wanted to record my favorite songs to relive the moment, while also living in the moment. So knowing the next 2 songs would be Bleed Me an Ocean and Grave Flower, I decided to really take it all in. That's when it hit me, the reality of it all. Knowing every word by heart, seeing my favorite band in person, something I never even dreamed possible. This concert was already shaping up to be one of the most powerful experiences of my life, and next up were easily 2 of their most moving songs. I was especially curious to hear how Bones of Baby Dolls would translate live being an acoustic track. That unexpected high-energy ending was absolutely awesome. It was hot as hell that night, something Dax himself pointed out. Though being from Louisiana, he said they're used to it. Still, I'm sure everyone felt the same chill I did when the band gathered in a circle to play New Death Sensation. The intro felt ritualistic and sacred. The whole song sounded massive live. Both of these songs were the most impressive live vocal performances I've ever heard. Unforgettable. The next song, Venus Blue, was dedicated to Audie, followed by Scream of the Butterfly, in which Audie wrote the main riffs for both. They're 2 of my all-time favorites, and hearing them back to back was a truly touching moment. The crowd had already been going wild all night, but when they closed the set strong with Dr. Seuss's Dead, something changed, like everyone was waiting for this moment. People were jumping, moshing, and crowd surfing left and right. Seeing Acid Bath live wasn't just a show, it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, something I never dreamed possible, yet there I was, front row, watching legends come to life, a night that'll stay with me forever. As I was leaving the show, I overheard someone asking a security guard, "Did Dixie Dave really get kicked out midway through Acid Bath?" He laughed and said, "Yeah, dude, he could barely stand. He looked like Popeye." Hearing that made me appreciate this patch so much more. It's crazy to think how a single CD, randomly found at a record store, could spark a chain reaction that would reshape my life. From picking up bass for the first time, to diving into obscure sludge metal, to making music videos, they were all inspired by one band. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear how you discovered Acid Bath, so drop your story in the comments.